In December, the cold blanketed the city like a dark, heavy shroud. I worked as a cleaner in a small motel on the outskirts, a quiet, inconspicuous place that people usually pass by without noticing. It was a humble motel, but the job was stable, and I enjoyed meeting new people, listening to their stories, and learning about their life adventures. This daily routine brought a sense of calm and stability that I valued deeply. One winter day, a small family checked into the motel, a young couple with a daughter around 5 years old. The girl had thick curly hair and big brown eyes that curiously observed everything around her. The family seemed happy and had decided to stay here for 3 days to rest. Their smiles, especially the little girl's smile, were genuine and carefree. On the first day, they decided to explore the surroundings a bit, perhaps even venture into the remote corners of the town. When they returned, they were visibly tired, but there was a joy on their faces from the experiences they had shared. The next morning, I entered their room to clean. On the bed lay the girl's doll with outstretched arms, as if waiting for its little owner. I couldn't help but smile. The family seemed very friendly. The couple even thanked me for my work, and that was a rare, pleasant gesture. But that night, the idyllic atmosphere turned into horror. Around 2 in the morning, I was suddenly awakened by a terrifying scream. It was a desperate, panicked cry that echoed down the motel's empty corridors. My thoughts immediately turned to the family, and I rushed to their room. Inside, chaos reigned. The parents were frantic, shouting that their daughter was missing. They looked shattered and lost, repeating one question over and over. "Where is she?" We turned the room upside down, searching every corner, under the bed, and in the small bathroom. But the girl was nowhere to be found. The night manager joined the search and called the police. Soon all the motel's guests were out in the hallway, looking confused and puzzled. We began searching every room, every corner, even outside near the parking lot, but there were no signs of her. It felt as if the little girl had simply vanished, dissolved into thin air. Then I remembered one of the staff members, Steve, who was missing that night. Steve had been working at the motel for only about a month, maybe a bit longer. He was quiet and rarely talked to anyone. His behavior had always seemed a bit odd. He hardly ever met anyone's gaze and always appeared tense, as if he was constantly troubled by something. However, he did his job, and no one really paid him much attention. The police arrived quickly and began gathering information. We decided to check the surveillance footage. In the video, we could see Steve. Around 1:30 in the morning, he silently slipped into the family's room. It was just a quiet shadow moving through the darkness. A few minutes later, he emerged carrying something wrapped in a carpet. Horrified, we saw small feet sticking out from it. The parents froze in shock and horror as they watched. The mother dropped to her knees, covering her face with her hands. My heart clenched, and a heavy sense of dread settled over me. It was something so dreadful it was hard to comprehend. On the cameras, we saw Steve exit through the back doors leading to the forest behind the motel. We immediately alerted the police. Within minutes, the area was flooded with flashing lights, and officers with search dogs began combing through the woods. The search continued, and I could only stand aside, watching the lights flicker among the trees, listening to the barking of the dogs and the muffled voices of the officers. It seemed like an eternity until finally, one of the officers reported over the radio that they had found Steve deep in the woods near a small clearing. Next to him was the little girl, and he wasn't alone. When the officers approached, they saw that Steve was speaking to someone, a dark figure that quickly disappeared into the darkness as the police approached. Steve was holding the girl as if he was trying to negotiate or sell her. My mind struggled to grasp this. How could someone we worked with every day, who quietly mopped floors and took out the trash, be capable of something like this? The police acted swiftly, detaining Steve on the spot and freeing the girl. She was frightened, but thankfully unharmed. The girl ran into the arms of the officer who rescued her, trembling with fear. When they brought her back to the motel, she saw her parents and burst into tears, running into her mother's embrace, who held her as if she would never let go again. Her father stood nearby, pale and stunned by the shock. The motel was filled with a heavy silence. Each of us was bewildered and disoriented. The police started questioning everyone, trying to piece together what had happened and understand how Steve had managed to stay unnoticed and how he knew the family would be vulnerable. I remembered the strange feeling that always surfaced when I looked at him, and it now made sense. He had been watching people, studying them, just waiting for the right opportunity. Steve was placed in a police car, handcuffed. His face remained completely expressionless, showing no remorse or fear, just emptiness. I stood watching as the car drove off and felt a deep anger and horror well up within me. Anger, because such betrayal from someone we trusted was terrifying, and horror, because that darkness had been lurking so close. As the car disappeared into the distance, I felt a chilling sensation wash over me. Do we truly know the people around us? And can any of us be certain that darkness isn't hiding behind the next familiar face?